I'd like to call this April 11th, 2024 Board of Education meeting to order. Mr. Anagnastu, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell? Here. Ms. Cobain?
Here.
Mr. Micko?
Here.
Ms. Stachek?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Here.
We are all present. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our strategic priorities, which guide all of our decisions, reflect our values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and community. We have 4 strategic priorities to plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. And all our decisions are based on those goals. Next is OSBA Student Achievement. Dr. Ryba, Mrs. Cobain, Ms. Stavcek.
I will ask Mrs. Boydum to come up and present the award to Vihan. Now, I hope I say this right. Yana Mandra. Did I get that right? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Jessica Boydum, the principal from Strongsville Middle School, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to speak about Vihan this evening to all of you because he's so deserving of this recognition. Vihan is a 7th grade student on our Seekers team at the middle school. He's an honor student who excels academically, musically, and athletically. He participates in our school orchestra and chamber strings orchestra as a violinist, and he's also a member of the USA Swim Club, which his favorite events, he told me, are the butterfly and the relay. And just recently, he and his team went to nationals in Florida, where he got the top 15 recognition for his team in the relay and top 60 in the butterfly. He is actively involved in our math club and our Mustang Mentors program. He mentors our 6th grade students, prepares and teaches lessons with his peers in small groups, which he has one tomorrow. I hope you're ready. And he participates in our leadership activities at the middle school. So I could say so many great things about Vihan, but he works very closely with some other people in our building that also wanted to recognize you tonight. So I asked them to say a few things. And one of our teachers said, Vihan has demonstrated relentless dedication, exceptional talent, and remarkable contributions to both the orchestra community and the chamber strings ensemble. Throughout his journey as a student musician, he has constantly pushed the boundaries of his abilities and inspired those around him to strive for greatness. Vihan's leadership within our group has been instrumental in fostering a culture of collaboration. He embodies the values of discipline, perseverance, and artistic integrity, earning the admiration and respect of teachers and fellow musicians. Mrs. Bravo says, congratulations. His team wrote, we are so happy for Vihan. He is an exceptional student. He always works to his fullest potential and beyond. Vihan is a class leader and challenges the class on a daily basis. He always wants to learn and expand his knowledge in all subjects. He is the definition of a model Mustang. The Seekers are so proud and lucky to have him on our team. Great job, Vihan. And finally, Vihan takes an all-in approach to everything he does. He is not satisfied in accomplishing a task. He approaches even the smallest problems with fervor. He strives to reach unique solutions and cares deeply about helping others to not only understand a problem, but to also see the beauty in math itself. Strong words from our math coach for our district, from Mrs. Scott. So Vihan is a special young man and a student who goes the extra mile by taking advantage of amazing opportunities that we offer in our school district and community, not only to better himself, but that of others. But not only is he a model student, leader, musician, and athlete, but the best thing I could say about Vihan is that he is kind, he's well-mannered, humble, empathic, and hardworking. He models so many skills we desire of all of our students to obtain already at a young age, and we are so fortunate to watch you grow and excel in all you're going to do and all the things you have done to deserve this recognition. So congratulations.
On behalf of all of us, here's your award, Vihan. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
I'm just very thankful to get this award, and I am thankful to all my teachers and my peers for helping me get this award and helping me strive and doing my best in all I do. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate this.
I sent you off before the picture.
Want to get a picture of the family? Or does your family want to get a picture? No. And when Vihan was awarded, all of his classmates were like, we knew it. He's so deserving of this. This is perfect for him. So he was very humble about it. He was shocked, and everyone else they knew it was going to be him. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Vihan, on that well-deserved recognition, and it's exciting to continue to recognize some of our outstanding students, and we'll move into our student athletes. So I'll ask our athletic director, Denny Ziegler, to come to the podium to get us going on our next set of recognitions.
All righty, thank you guys very much. You know, our winter sports wrapped up after our spring sports started, so it's always an honor to recognize our winter sport athletes that were state qualifiers this year. And what a great intro, Vihan being a swimmer. I want to bring up Coach Stacy, our swim coach, to talk about our state qualifier swimmers.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting us for this recognition. I'm going to call them up and then talk about them with them up here. So for the girls, our state qualifier was Estelle Friedrich, and for the boys, Owen Weiss. You guys will come up here. So I've been coaching them for a really, really long time, and it's been amazing to see them grow. They're both two-time individual state qualifiers now, and they're just juniors, which is pretty remarkable. They're also both team captains. Like, there's so many good things to say about them besides the fact that they're achieving at a high level in swimming. Tremendous leaders for the team this year. For Owen, like the boys, they graduated so many boys, all these boys he's looked up to since he was little. And then they ended up winning conference this year, which was amazing. Both of them were all conference this year. And then Estelle, like, same thing, graduated some really good girl swimmers, and they ended up being runner-up in the conference this year, which was tremendous. So our team has a lot of success, but it's because of people like this, not just because Owen and Estelle are such good swimmers. They do such a good job of leading the team, making the team good, making the team honestly humble. I feel like the team is very humble. And it both comes from them. They're not the type to go around bragging about how good they are, which is even more important that they're being recognized here, I feel, because they're not going to shout out to everybody how good they are. But I'm very proud of them for the seasons they had. They made the state meet in the 500, which is the most grueling, longest race in swimming. So it's tremendous what they did this year. Training-wise, they did a lot of really, really unique, hard stuff that the rest of the team didn't have to do. I'm like, Owen and Estelle, you guys go do this. Everyone else is not going to do it. So I couldn't be more proud of them. And yeah, just congratulations, guys, and thanks again for this recognition for them.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next group of athletes that I would like to recognize is our state qualifying gymnastics team. This team this year broke a ton of records from a team component, but also a lot of individual records were broken by some of our team members. For those of you that don't know, the state changed the playoff format for gymnastics. It used to be a sectional district and then the state meet. Well, they went to a super district this year. So the amount of qualifying teams as well as the amount of qualifying individuals was decreased for Northeast Ohio. So for what these young women did, it speaks volume for their hard work and dedication, because it was extremely hard for anyone to get out of the super district that we had this year, especially when you have teams such as Brecksville, Magnificat, and all those state qualifying top teams every single year. So at this time, I want to call up Coach Bree to talk about our gymnastics team.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting myself and our team to tonight's meeting. I am Bree. I'm the assistant gymnastics coach of our team this year, and our head coach apologizes that she's unable to make it today. Tonight, we are recognizing a record-breaking 2023-2024 SHS varsity gymnastics team. This year, our team won GCC Conference Championship meet with a season high of 142.3, and we were named co-conference champions. Then they went to districts and scored an even higher 142.45 and qualified to the state championship meet as district runner-ups. At the state meet in Columbus, the Mustangs set a school record with a team score of a 143.5 and finished in outstanding 5th place. We broke many records this year, and it was all because of our 10 athletes that we have on this team. Every team member participated and contributed to that school-breaking record. And now I will name them. When I say your guys' names, you guys can come on up. We had freshman Maddie Caldwell. Freshman Violet Keith. Freshman Lena. Freshman Sam. Freshman Michaela. And freshman all-conference team member Lauren. We had junior all-conference team member, regular season conference vault champion, all-district team member, and individual state qualifier in the all-around on bars and on beam, Gianna. Senior all-conference team member, Emma Hahn. Senior captain, all-conference team member, all-district and all-Ohio academic team member, Ava Ketterer. And senior individual state alternate on the beam, Sophia.
So on behalf of the school board, I just want to take an opportunity to congratulate everyone we recognized one more time. I'd like to say thank you to the coaches, to the administrators, the leaders, and thank you to the parents. Thank you for taking the time Your pride is in your children's accomplishment is evident, and we share it. I did want to share, I got to meet Vihan at our State of the Schools, and I still don't remember if it's not mathletes, but it's math something. Magicians, math magicians. I knew it was something clever. But one of the things that I came away from that interaction with is how much joy Vihan has in sharing his love of math. And you could see that he loved the intricacy of math and didn't want to just keep it to himself. He got joy from sharing it with me and with whoever else visited him. And it really was charming. It was really something that we should be proud of and enjoy. And the same thing with our swimmers and our gymnasts. I have things that I think about a lot, and they go in patterns. And the thing that I think about a lot lately is the things we spend our time on. And I think about all the hours of practice that each of you put into your sport, and you could choose to do many other things, but you choose to do something good that's rewarding and that is rewarding for us as a school district. So thank you for being model Mustangs, and once again, congratulations. This is the time that if anyone has homework that they need to finish, they can escape. But next on our agenda is public comment, and I do have one slip from Bev Jones. So Bev, you know the drill. You've been here before. Name and address, and you have approximately 3 minutes, and I don't know how to tell time.
That is so wonderful to see these kids excel like this. And a lot of freshmen, so we get to do this a few times, huh? Way to go, folks. Well, good evening. I hope all is well with all of you. You know, I've been looking at the last 2 months of the school year. I know you've been glancing at it from time to time, too. And I know that pretty soon we're going to have that sigh that says, whew, it's been another great year for SCS. And that's true. And I'm so happy to be in this city and watching the great things that are going on here. So with that, however, my however was coming, I must talk about this levy just a little bit. Okay, I promise. First of all, I want a levy to pass. Do you get this on the recording? On the record, Beverly Jones is for a renewal levy. Okay? So whatever you might have heard, or I don't think you talk about me at all, but Beverly Jones wants a renewal levy. But there's several people that I've talked to that are voters that may or may not be saying the same thing I'm saying tonight. But I've talked to a couple thousand voters in this city, because last summer, you may or may not have heard that I was running for school board myself. But I talked door to door with people, and I didn't talk specifically about the levy. In fact, I never once brought it up. I was talking about me, you know. But people wanted to talk about it, and I didn't have a thing to tell them except I listened. I listened, and that's my word for tonight. Okay, this year I'm going door to door still, and it's for other candidates and stuff. But this is a big year for election, so, you know, we're all probably doing our part to help those that we support, right? But I didn't bring up the levy, and I won't, unless people want to talk. So I'm listening, and I want to tell you what I'm hearing. Okay? Our voters want relief. And I said this before, but I used the wrong word. But they love our city, they love our schools, and they love our students. But they want, and they're telling me, like I could do something about it, they want fewer taxes, They want relief from all that they're paying. I don't care if they live in a 2-bedroom house or they live in one of those with 4-car garages. They want relief. And that's the basic message I'm hearing from the voters, who, by the way, are the ones we need to convince, right? The voters. They want you to do something that looks to them like you hear them. Let me say that again. They want you to do something that looks like you hear them. They want you to present them with some form of relief. Reduce the levy. I said this before. A little, even a little, 3%, 5%, 10%, you know. This young man right here would be able to figure all that out. He's not smiling at me, but I have confidence that you guys can figure out how to do that so that the voters will go in there and say yes. Okay? Something that says the schools hear you. Okay? So I'm asking you, don't dig in your heels. Don't make this a yes or no vote. That's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay? Let our voters know that you're listening and you care enough to let them keep some of their money. Now, maybe I sound Pollyannish, but I think it can be done. Okay? So, because when I was running, I told people that I would be their voice to the school board. That was my little slogan. So now I'm telling you what their voices are saying. And I think that it's time to listen to them. And I've told you what they're asking. And they spoke twice already. So let's listen to them and do what they're speaking to us. Okay? Some form of release with this levy. Please listen to the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes, and that is part of the consent calendar. Motion, we will, in the consent calendar, we will approve the minutes from the March 28th, 2024 board meeting. I think the computer's catching up. Next on our agenda is Board of Education Superintendent's Report, Technology Department Update.
Thank you, Mr.
I can't
Micko.
wait.
Your wheelhouse. So I'm going to ask Mr. Binkley to come up, and throughout the presentation, Mr. Kepler's here, Mr. Ziegler's here as well, as we'll have a portion about athletics and technology, and a follow-up on our last conversation about live streaming. So welcome Dave to share what's been going on in the tech department and the work that he's been leading. Dave.
Good evening. No, I'm fine. I got it printed out too. So it's about that time of year where I come in and you see a lot of me asking for money, but also a couple years ago we started doing this because if my department's working well, you really don't hear a lot about us. So we wanted to take some time to highlight some of the good things we've done in the last year. So in this presentation, I would say quick presentation, but that might be a lie. We have about 5 things here. We're going to talk about some highlights from our department, some highlights from our new district technology plan. We're going to talk about updating our Chromebook rollout policy, or plans that we're going to be using this year or next year. Talk about our movement in the generative AI with some district guidelines and policies. And then we're going to revisit, like Dr. Riba said, our athletic streaming contract with Huddle. It is up this year, and we need some guidance into where to go for the next contract. So to start off, just some things that my department has been working on. We've continued our infrastructure updates, putting in some switches and some cabling and updating some servers. Right now, we're working with Steve Breckner and his department installing all the new security cameras that we got through his safety and security grant. About 130 so cameras we're going to either install or replace. So it's a lot of busy work for my team, and the maintenance crews helping us out as well, running some of those cables. And then we refreshed our district telephone services last summer to some headaches for some, but overall it's been very well received because we now also get our voicemails through our email, so it's a little bit easier for some of our teachers and staff to get those notices, especially if they're in different rooms throughout the day. And it also has made us more compliant with the regulations when it comes to like 911 calls. We did finish the first phase of 3 for our PC refresh. Windows 10 isn't going to be serviceable anymore with updates after October of 2025. So it's taken us 3 summers to get all of our teacher PCs and our instructional spaces PCs up to order. So we did about 180 last summer for all of our elementary school teachers in those learning spaces. We're going to do the high school this summer and then the middle school the following summer. So we have about 150 some computers we're going to put in the high school this summer. And then since June, with the trailer and some of the new classrooms in the Whitney Media Center and some maneuvering within the middle school, we've either created or redesigned 10 learning spaces since June. So that's a little higher than normal, but you know, with the trailers coming in, I would probably say it's going to be the same number or higher next year. But we have a great team, and we work well with maintenance, so they go through these tickets pretty quick. We got some interesting things that we've done this year with some partnerships. We did partner with Vivacity Tech this year. They're a company based out of, I think it's Wisconsin, actually. They have what they call a student Chromebook repair academy. We started this with the middle school this year with 7th graders. We had over 30 kids apply. We dwindled them down for various reasons and talking to teachers and everything else to about 7. Those 7 students started taking the online coursework. We've had 1 kid finish it all, and the other 6 are still working on it. It's on their own time during their IE or before or after school. They're going through learning a little bit about the history of computers and technology and how the components work. And then they learn how to replace screens, batteries, and some simple cables and keyboards on Chromebooks. The one student that we've had finish is my son, mainly because I've made him finish it. Because part of the partnership was that we had to have 1 kid finish it before the end of the school year. And he has helped us replace, just last week, about 6 screens, just during IE when he was there about 3 days last week. So it's been really nice, and we have other students who are really interested, and they're still working through the coursework. And so we're hoping that they finish it through this year or through the summer, and we hope to continue that next year, because I already seen a dividend from just the 1 student who's been able to help us out. We've also participated in the Battelle for Education Innovative Leaders Institute this year. Jessica Frenchick and I have started this last June, actually. We go down to Battelle. We've been down to the Dayton STEM Regional School. In a couple of weeks, we'll go to the Akron STEM Middle School. And this process is really built for 2 things. It's either built for schools who are interested in going for STEM designation, and it kind of walks them through the mentorship to do that. Or the other pathway, which we kind of chose to do, which was to go through the experience, have like a talking partner, a mentor, a thought partner, and see how we kind of measure up to the rubric and see how we measure up to the main concepts of a STEM school. We do quite well. One of the biggest things that is a big hurdle for a lot of the districts is common language. And thanks to our Model Mustang, our common language is already embedded, which is the biggest hurdle for a lot of districts. And so if we were to do some more investigation, that's the thing that a lot of schools just automatically don't make it to this next round of the designation. But for us, there's other factors in play. But for us, it's nice to see that the stuff that we're doing in our classrooms is even modeled in some of these experiences we've done with the other adults from other districts. Excuse me. We actually went to an activity down in Dayton that they replicated one of the activities that we've done here for PD. So it's nice to see that we're right on line with how they want teachers to think and how they want to work with their students. We've had some great growth in our makerspace courses at our middle school and high school. We're adding a course next year for the middle school because of how successful the Makerspace 1 was this year there. In the high school, they have varying scaffolded levels of makerspace there as well. So it's been nice to see that grow within the confines of the curriculum. Our elementary schools have grown with the elementary use too. Over the summer, or towards the end of last year, Jenny Zacharias and Jessica Frenchick and I kind of worked together and made like a core pack of what should be in an elementary school makerspace for us. And so now they've done PDs, mostly through staff meetings. And they've done some really cool things with B-bots and Indy cars and some dash bots that they've now seen the same activity used throughout the different buildings. And we actually applied and got 2 grants this year as a department. We got $5,000 from Battelle for drones. They're right now housed at our middle school, but they can go anywhere. And then we got a couple weeks ago, and George talked about it, we got a grant from GPD for some new 3D printers. They're a little bit of a lesser quality, but they're faster. So we're going to try to house these at our middle school and move some of our more professional, higher grade 3D printers to our high school. And that way we have, we'll have more printers in both schools, but the ones that they do a little bit higher grade projects with and a little bit more finer detail than some of what our students are doing at the middle school, the high school have those available. And then we've been active in the ed tech community. We've done 5 presentations, myself and tech coaches, at both Ohio COSIN and then OETC this year. And then next month, I'll be attending Brainstorm in Sandusky. It's a regional conference where I'll be doing a partnership presentation with Vivacity Tech over our student Chromebook Academy. And then also with Blocksy, it's the program we use for our Chromebook classroom management and filtering. So we're active in the community, not just in our schools. The next thing I'm going to talk about is our district technology plan. So if you have any questions, please feel free to interject. If not, I'll just keep talking. And this, we did not have to have a technology plan, but when we did adopt policy 7540, part of that policy requires us to have one, so therefore we had to make one. So we started this back in August. We created a technology committee. There's a little over 25 people involved. We had people from my department, curriculum. We had our tech coaches. We had some co-chairs. So we had Lou Marconi from Kinsner and Brian, the assistant principal at the middle school. And then we had some other administrators jump in to help out with some of their viewpoints. And then we had a lot of educators on there as well. So we had a lot of variety of viewpoints going into this little plan that we were going to put together. It's more of a guiding document for our department. So, you know, our purpose is to inspire and empower today's learners to build tomorrow's leaders. And about 5 years ago when I started here, we came up with kind of like this motivation for my department. And it was that we wanted to empower learning through supporting innovation, engagement, and infrastructure. So if we feel if we're doing those 3 things, then no matter what the district wants to do, they'll be able to do it. So every time that we go to make a decision, we kind of reflect on making sure that's kind of our guiding point. So with the technology plan, there are 5 overarching goals. Let me get caught up here on my notes so I don't skip anything. The first one is personalized learning for Model Mustangs. Basically, this is enhancing our instructional experience for our students. The second goal is providing, personalized professional development and support. So this is providing our educators with opportunities to enhance their skills and knowledge and empowering them to integrate these into their lessons. The third one is the digital wellness and citizenship. So it's opportunity of students and then hopefully eventually parents and staff members to develop healthy and responsible tech habits and then promoting a balanced and positive relationship with technology. Number 4 is maintaining and providing access to current technologies while investigating emerging technologies. This is something that a lot of districts, I feel, are really good at the first part, but not the second part. We're really good at making the stuff we have last for as long as possible, but then sometimes we forget to look at what's coming or what is out there until we have to. So we try to be a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to doing that. And the next one is about having a robust infrastructure, making sure that we have establish and maintain reliable and comprehensive technology infrastructure so that way we can have our connectivity and do everything that we feel we want to do on a daily basis. So with this, there's kind of like a gradient scale. The higher up it is, the more important it is for creating a learning environment that supports our vision and mission as a district, but the bottom ones are necessary for that important stuff to happen. So we have to make sure like 4 and 5 are in place. If those aren't in place, we can't do 1 and 2. So that's kind of how we thought this process through and why they're kind of ordered that way. Excuse me. The next part here, this all kind of goes into 3 buckets, all focused on this idea of EdTech equity. And EdTech equity is really talking about how do we equalize our students' learning opportunities and experiences and their educational outcomes when it comes to utilizing technology in the classroom. So technology can be a great equalizer, but also it's an easy way to separate the haves versus have-nots. So we want to make sure that all of our students have the same experiences when they come through any of our classrooms. So you can see that our 5 goals kind of go into these 3 buckets of instruction for our model Mustangs, which was goal 1. Goal 4 and 5, which was our technology of maintaining and investigating technologies and having a good infrastructure. And then the opportunities, which is the professional development for our staff, and then digital wellness overall. So I'm not going to go through all the goals in detail, but I do want to point
Why?
out some of the key action steps.
Why
that we're
not?
doing.
I was hoping you were going to read every bullet point and expound on it.
Because I told him not to.
Yes. Yes. We even had a meeting about how to make this out of not Dave speak. So, the idea
We'll call
for the
a
first
special
one.
meeting.
The first one, really, with personalized learning, is trying to provide examples of technology while we're doing lessons. How do we foster the integration of instructional technology tools into lesson design, which we've had some great work this year in our DLT. And then through collaboration, either with staff, help to identify and embed new technologies into those learning experiences. Goal 2 is the professional development and support of our staff. This is both important for our certificated staff, and sometimes we overlook this, and we've got to make sure that we have the same kind of opportunities for our non-certificated staff. Their jobs are becoming even more reliant on technology as well, not just the Google stuff for me, but like SCView and eFinance with George. So we got to make sure that we provide them appropriate professional development too. And then one thing that has been unique in, I feel, my situation is how do we present non-traditional professional development opportunities? Because PD days are limited, and there is always something important on those days. So how do we take advantage of non-traditional times, like maybe a staff meeting, or a duty period, or a couple minutes before school or after school? How do we engage our staff at non-traditional PD times? Number 3, the digital wellness. One is how do we teach our students and staff how to effectively use the technology they have, so that way they're getting the most out of their experience and their time. Then we have, really the next one I'm going to say here is developing a digital citizenship and wellness curriculum. We do what is required by the state and federal regulations to be E-rate compliant and all that, but there's more that I feel like we should be doing to help our students become better digital citizens and going through the whole technology balance system as they're growing with, and they're digital natives and things like that. So that's something that I feel we could do a better job than what we're currently doing. And so I've been working with the media specialists in all grade bands, and we've got some ideas on some lessons. The lessons are kind of formulated, and then we're trying to figure out how do we get those into the buildings next year in a way that doesn't interrupt the school day, but still provides everything that we need to. The next one about emerging and current technologies.
Dave, before you go on,
yeah.
I just want to highlight how important I think that is, to the point where I think there's an argument that it shouldn't be in the middle. Digital citizenship and how to deal with technology every day just becomes more serious, and the consequences of us not doing it well become more severe.
Yes.
So, I don't want to, I think I speak for the board, but this, in my mind, is the stuff that I'd like to see the concentration on.
Okay. Anything else?
You can read every bullet point.
Trust me, I would if I could. But the next one I think is important for us, really is thinking about supporting the use of our current technologies and then figuring out what emerging technologies we can go with. Because technologies, there's a lot of fads, and we don't want to put a lot of money into some fads that may not sustain in a learning environment, or just become too costly to upkeep. So that's something I think we need to do. And then another thing on here that my department likes to make fun of me for, but creating guidelines for new technology. I really like talking about if we're going to use something, how do we use it correctly and use it to its full effect. And so that's something that as we go through some things, and we're going to talk about it later when we talk about generative AI, just some general guidelines to how we use technology. And the last one here for the technology plan is really focusing on how do we make sure our district is up to date on everything, and then how do we stay in front of the curve as much as possible without damaging any kind of system that we have, because it's really easy to go for the next biggest, brightest thing, but then sometimes those aren't always as stable when you come into an environment like ours. Another one is, improving our resilience for cyber attacks. Something we've been working with our insurance companies with, and George has provided some information as well, just to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that we're resilient to any of those actions. And that leads me to any questions about the technology plan?
Kudos. I think it's a great plan. Obviously, we need more work on it, but that's every day of every week. But again, I thought it was well thought out, and I'm glad we have the plan. I think it's important that we adopted the policy, and it forces us to do the exercise, and it's well worthwhile. So kudos.
I think it was a lot of hours, and we did a lot of virtual meetings, online, a lot of independent work, and then bringing it together, and then through multiple revisions through these online meetings with everybody that was involved. So it was a big collective effort. So the next thing I want to talk about is our Chromebooks, just so that you kind of know where we currently are with our Chromebooks. In our classrooms, kindergartners are having their Chromebooks in carts, and they're one-to-one with touchscreen Chromebooks because they don't quite know all their letters yet, so being able to touch the screen makes it a little bit easier for them to use. Grades 1 and 2, they're still in the carts, but they're regular Chromebooks. We start giving our students Chromebooks in 3rd grade that they can take home every night. And then they get a different device in 6th grade, and they get a different device in 9th grade. In 9th grade through 12th grade, they pay a fee, and then after they graduate, the device becomes theirs. So just to go a little bit background before I was here, that $25 came into play because back then, a Chromebook plus the management license was about $200. So basically, in the 4 years, the student had paid for half the cost of the device when they left. Not quite same thing as nowadays, but that's what was the original purpose of that policy. Some new developments, back in COVID, Google was nice and say, hey, we know that technology is scarce, we'll bump it from a 4-year end of life policy for updates up to 6. But then starting this, I believe it's actually this quarter, Google is going to make any device that's been 2022 or newer move to 10 years of updates. However, from our experiences, the devices don't really last more than 5 to 7 years, even though they get 10 years of updates. Even myself, who take, I think, pretty good care of my device, I probably get 5 to 7 years out of that. So we're looking at maybe adjusting our policies or our plans a little bit to get the most money out of our use of the devices. We have a program, it's called TDT Asset. It used to be called One-to-One. This year, since August 1st to the day before spring break, we had almost 3,100 Chromebook incidents throughout our districts. These include broken screens, broken devices, they won't turn on. Most of those because the kids forgot to charge them overnight and they brought them in to try to get a loaner. But there's a lot of different reasons why. But something that was troubling when we did look through this, and we've been working with the middle school principals on trying to address this, is that 1,756 of those belong to the middle school. So that's 25% of our student population, give or take, is our middle school, and they account for almost 57% of all of our Chromebook incidents. So that means they're averaging almost about 21 a day, 22 a day coming in, which is more than all the other buildings combined on a daily basis. So Mr. Blutton, our tech there, always has his hands busy, and I go over once or twice a week to help out too. And then we bring in other techs as well when there's like a slow day at one of the elementary schools or the high school. Those techs come over and help as well. But it is something that we're trying to address. But it is that age level, and it's not just us. Our tech listserv around the state always complains about middle school students and behaviors and how the devices are being tested like they like to test the rules and disciplines as for anything. So, but we have been working with them, and we have seen some improvement throughout the year. Excuse me. But it is still something we're keeping an eye on. And the last thing is, when we talked about Chromebook licenses and purchasing, with, like I said, it was $150 plus the management license was about $200 when I started 5 years ago. Now they're about $250 per device plus the management license. That's about a 67% price increase in 5 years. So it's eating up more and more of our budget. And honestly, today we just got so some of this is going to be a little off, but today we just got a quote for some models for next year. And probably the one we're going to go with once you add the management license is about $311 per Chromebook. So even a higher increase. And they're not necessarily not making them any more rugged. The insides are a little bit better, but the physical components on the outside aren't. So something that we thought about doing since we have this 10-year span of updates of lowering a swap grade. So before we would get Chromebook in 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. And that was because they only were good for 4 years of updates. Now, since we can stretch it out, we were thinking about going from 3rd to 7th grade and then doing 8th to 12th grade, which would include maybe changing a policy, a fee policy later on when we do our fees for next year. But we might be changing this after seeing what the cost is right now. We might be just going back to 3rd to 9th grade and see if we can stretch that extra year out in middle school with use. And that way, there's a lot less frustration when parents move in or out of the district coming from a middle school to a high school. There's some other things that are kind of in play that we've been talking about that wasn't originally in our mind when we were thinking about this. Any questions about the Chromebooks?
I don't have a question specifically about the Chromebook, but this is a discussion point currently in our house. If we're adjusting the length of time that the Chromebook is lasting, or the case comes with it when you give it to the students, yes? Like everybody gets the
We
case?
currently provide in 3rd grade, and then in 9th grade, we've been doing it too, like a little carrying case with it, yeah.
So, what does one do? And this is a practical question for the parents. They don't last that long. Like, I have 3 at home, and all 3 of them are broken. So what, do we have a plan to address that, and/or is it something that as parents we just address a different way?
What we have been doing when people's been, like parents been emailing me or calling me, we offer to have them buy a new one from us at cost for what we get from our vendor, or the parents can buy them extra, buy them on their own from like a Google or something.
Okay,
or
so
from
you can just
Amazon.
buy them anywhere?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just something that we did to, originally, like, we're giving you a device to take care of, we feel like we should give you a little bit of something else to help take care of it. But some people love the case, some people don't like the case. My students themselves, my kids, they use the case because I make them to, but they prefer a little bit of extra protection while they're using it. So I went on Amazon and bought them like a $10 like clear case cover. They also can put stickers on the covers too, and they kind of personalize it because you're not allowed to put stickers on the Chromebooks themselves. But really the idea is if you want an extra one, we can add it to the fees. We just call parents when the kid comes in. My mom says, I need a new case. Then we contact the parent, and then we just add it to their invoice if they want it from us, or we just show them some examples on Amazon.
Okay, so there's no plan. They'll get one in 3rd and one in 9th,
Yeah.
and that's that. Okay, thank you.
Dave, the only comment I had was question was if you can go back to the new Chrome rollout, do you have any prediction on how many students are going to buy out their Chromebook? And is it part of your budget process that you need to have so many buy them out.
No, I mean, it's required that they pay it from 9th through 12th, so we've never, it's just that we take that money in, it goes to a fund. Nobody buys it out per se unless they're leaving the district. So we've had some students who are like a sophomore or junior say, hey, we're moving out of the district. We give them a choice. Give us the $25 for the device for next year that you would have paid, or just return the device.
I misunderstood. I thought you were suggesting that as, when they were seniors, they would buy it at $125.
No,
So now I understand.
Yeah, it's just the accumulation of the $25 fee every year.
Right. No, I thought that was a new fee, that if you
Oh.
wanted it, and I was like, nobody's going to buy a 3-year-old laptop
Correct.
at $125.
No, the difference would be if we did do this, we'd have to get a new fee put in for 8th grade to add the additional 25, so it'd be 125 instead of $100, just 9 through 12. But with the new information we have, we might not go that route, so I'll revisit that when we go to the policy meeting when we talk about class fees.
Yeah, the only candid question I have is, you know, on the one hand, they can last 4 to 5 years. The question is, will they?
Yeah.
And
We're
if we're
seeing-
planning on it, but they really don't, we better consider that, because twice you're going to have students running around with laptops that either parents are just going to say, I don't care, buy a new one, or they're not going to serve the need. You know, as you well know, they should just be tools. So, okay.
And we see that now. We have some of our loaners at about the 5-6 year, and it really depends on the model. We have some Dells that are 6 years old, and those things are rugged, and they're workhorses. And then we have some Lenovo's early Gen 2s from like 4 years ago, and some of those, you just even open it up a centimeter too much, and the hinge snaps. But the new Gen 3s don't do that. They're a thicker case. So it just depends on kind of the models of how long they last physically. We've almost never had a problem with the internals lasting as long. It's just the physical casing itself that tends to give out.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is a big thing in education. It's generative AI, ChatGPT. My department and I and some tech coaches have been working on some guidance for our staff. And we're actually currently in the process of getting feedback from our middle school and high school TBTs about this policy. When we first drafted this guidance document, it's about 17 pages. And then I showed it at Colt, and everybody laughed like they were going to really read all of that. So we condensed it down to about 12 slides that they're reviewing and trying to get their
I
input.
feel like I have to say, we are a nice group of people. We are giving constructive coaching feedback.
Dave speak.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, it was really helpful because when I go through this stuff, I really dive deep into it, and sometimes I don't see the big picture at times. So try to get us all on the same page. What is AI? AI is artificial intelligence that simulates a human intelligence process by using machines, which includes like learning, reasoning, and problem solving. There's 3 types of AI generally. You think of reactive, predictive, and generative. For this, we're going to be talking about generative, which really takes the ability to use resources to generate a human output of content. Like ChatGPT is the one most people are familiar with. I saw this at a conference, and I really liked it, comparing the use of generative AI to a bicycle. Everybody, or almost everybody, learns how to ride a bicycle when they're a young kid. It gets you from point A to point B easier. But if you don't learn to use the bicycle, you're not in any harm. You just got to walk that distance instead of riding a bike. Generative AI is kind of the same thing. What they're kind of saying now, when you're in education without any kind of assistance from generative AI, it's like riding a bike up a hill. You're doing all the work. It's a lot of work to get where you need to go. If you're using generative AI and you have too much reliance on it to do the work for you, it's like riding a motorcycle for the first time. You're kind of at the whim of the motorcycle. You don't know how the throttle works maybe. You put too much into it and it kind of goes off on its own. You're really like praying that it's all good and that it works out for you. But using generative AI as a learning partner, is kind of like an e-bike. You're going to get to point A to point B a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, but you're still going to be successful in what you're going to be doing. And that's kind of like the bucket that I kind of want us as a district to be kind of behind that mindset. Generative AI is here. We can't ignore it. So we got to embrace it, and then when we do embrace it, it is going to make aspects of our daily work easier for us. One thing I saw when I was reading up on generative AI, there's a report from Economic Forum about the future of jobs in 2023. They said in about 5 years, about a million jobs will be made that generate some type of generative AI component of it, and that's about a 40% growth. But what was more interesting to me was if you look at the business's top 10 skills for 2027, in this article they talked about the third biggest skill will be how to use AI and big data. So if we're really preparing our students to be tomorrow's leaders, they have to learn how to use AI and use it appropriately. But also what's nice is all the work that we've done with our Model Mustang, if you look through the top 10 skills of analytical thinking, creative thinking, resilience, there are a lot of key components there of our Model Mustang, which businesses are saying that they will want in their top 10 skills of their future employees. So that was a nice little tie into all the stuff that we do as a district. Excuse me again. But as with anything, especially technology, there are some concerns and limitations. So ChatGPT, and I'll use that one, just that's one that a lot of people are familiar with. It's what we call an LLM. It's a large language model. So basically, it's designed to understand resources and generate human-like text. So basically, when we're using this, we have to understand how it can be a benefit to us, but also how to mitigate possible issues and concerns. And there's really three big concerns when you use things like ChatGPT or any LLM. The first one is data privacy. When you use a lot of these tools, whatever you write into your prompt box becomes new information to the library of that resource. So that's when they say like ChatGPT or LLMs are evolving because they're getting more information and they get to know more. So when we do with our students, we have to be careful when we put information in there that we don't put any personal identifiable information. You don't want to put your address in there. You don't want to put like your social security number in there, things like that. But some people have done it. That's why we have to say don't do that. The next one is bias. Just as with anything with information, generative AI takes all of its information from resources on the internet. Sometimes they vet those resources, sometimes they don't. So it is, there is potential for bias in all those responses. So there is some training to become AI literate. Like how we used to tell our students that they had to be digital literate when you go to use websites and say what's a good website, what's a bad website. Now we got to figure out what's a good output from a chat GPT, what's a bad output. Because the bias could be there and we might not even know it from some of our own preconceived notions. But the biggest one, which gets a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of people, gets some people, is inaccuracies. So the way these programs work is it takes all this information from their libraries and they generate an outcome. If they don't have an answer, they use their resources to make up an answer based off of reasoning. It's like computer reasoning. So if there's blanks in there, it can make things up. And if it makes those things up, they might not be the actual answer. So it could be an inaccurate answer. So those are called hallucinations. So we have to be aware that that can happen. So there has to be a human component when we use generative AI. We have to talk about reading over things, evaluating things, making sure that it is an appropriate outcome that we want or output that we want. So that's very interesting from that aspect. Now, as a district, we started vetting some AI tools for our staff. Here, and then we kind of break them down into by their terms of service and restrictions. ChatGPT and Adobe Firefly. Adobe Firefly is a imaging generative AI. So that horse at the beginning of the slideshow presentation, that was actually made in Adobe Firefly. I typed in brown horse working on a computer as a technician wearing a green shirt, and that's what it popped out. So it is great tools. There's Copilot, Gemini, and Claude AI are another one that we've done. Those are 18 and up, so mainly adults only. Canva for Education has a great student data privacy part when we start wanting using this with students, because they don't, anything that it absorbs in, it doesn't send into its own library. It kind of goes into a holding cell. And so if the students put anything in there they're not supposed to, it's not going to become part of some general library. So it's safe for students to use. And then Magic School AI is a new program. We're actually piloting this right now. We started the week before spring break, where it is let's say a teacher-friendly AI, where it has a lot of little chat bots and tools that are geared towards like scaffolding questions, depth of knowledge, responding to parent emails, creating emails, and we did this during the DLT. Kim Scott created a question form, 5-question quiz, by just typing in the state standard and then threw it in a Google form in less than 3 minutes. Of course, you had to go through it and try some things out, but to create 5 questions, going through all the samples and all that would take more than 5 minutes. She was able to create the whole test and then even answer some of the questions in 5 minutes to make sure that they were valid questions. So it's a great tool that we have. And if it goes as much as people have been liking it, will be purchasing it next year for our staff. And then with that comes actually a Magic Student AI, which is a student-friendly version of the chatbot as well. And that's for grade 6 and up. And the reason why we say grade 6 and up is most literature says for reasoning skills and understanding it, grade 6, about 11, 12 is really where the students have the ability to really go through some of those concerns and about bias and inaccuracies, the hallucinations, to go through there. But we haven't done anything with students. Right now, our students don't have any access to generative AI on their Chromebooks, mainly because before we started playing with Magic School AI, none of them, either one, we don't fit their terms of service, because only ones that terms of service was ChatGPT was 13 and up, but also due to explicit content filtering. ChatGPT can be tricked or manipulated into providing some pretty graphic information as an output. To be E-rate compliant, we can't allow that to happen. So that's why we have not opened it up to students. But the work that we're doing with our staff right now to kind of create some things, we should be able to start using some Magic Student AI with some of our classes next year that has an explicit content filter so that they can work in a safe environment and we still be compliant with all of our regulations. And this is actually one of the things that we've been working on with the tech coaches, kind of giving a visual graphic or rethinking plagiarism with generative AI in the classroom. So this kind of gives our teachers kind of like 5 levels of AI use in the classroom. First one would be no AI use whatsoever. The next one is actually inspired by the College Board. AP Seminar has an actual blurb about how to use generative AI for brainstorming on their projects. So working with Sean Black, this is something that we brought up with that because that's a great thing. If College Board is doing it, we should allow it. The next one is AI-assisted editing. This would be like there's no new content being evolved. So it's like for me, type it in the email and then saying, yeah, that's a little wordy or maybe not so nice of tone. I put it in the chat GPT and say, this is an email that's going to go out to elementary school teachers early in the morning. Please make the tone a little bit nicer. And then it revamps the same message, just in a nicer tone. And so that's that yellow level of AI assisted. No new content's being made. Where the next one is, the next two actually, there's new content being made either for a specific task or the whole project is using AI. But the whole idea though is there's still the human oversight of checking the output, putting things in, and it's an art. You might have seen some of the news articles about some of these jobs that are just AI prompting, like 6 figures. Because there truly is an art of how to give it a role and ask a good question, then how to refine it. And just some benefits of generative AI in our classroom. For teachers, it's a great brainstorming or thought partner, can bring new life to a project or a lesson. An effective assistant, thinking about a teacher trying to make a rubric, a 5x5 rubric or a 4x5 rubric, can take a long time. What you could do with ChatGPT is say, here's my categories, here's my skill levels, here's the assignment, here's the standard, make it. It'll come out in a table, and then you could just modify it in a matter of seconds and minutes. So it's a great tool there. Data-driven decision-making, you can actually input data in there and ask it to find the trends for you. You might overlook something because of what your preconceived notions are about how the kids did or what the kids are doing. It can spit out the trends for you, and some of the programs can even make it into some graphical representations for you. And then automatic feedback, there's ways that you can use a rubric and then copy and paste the student's article or writing. And it's great for formative feedback. It's like, hey, here's the rubric, here's the student's article. Give me 3 things of formative feedback I can provide the student in a matter of seconds. So you can copy a couple things in a matter of a minute. You have 3 things that you can go back to a student with for formative assessment on an article that would be very similar to what you would have done if you would have read the whole thing yourself. Not good for the final project or for a summative grade, but for a formative, to help people keep moving in the right direction, it's a great tool. And so a tool that a teacher might have to take 3 or 4 hours to read 10 or 20 papers, you can probably do 10 or 20 students in 10 minutes to keep the things moving in the right direction. And then for students, it's a good learning partner. It's a great way to get objective and targeted assistance or feedback. Self-directed learning for like brainstorming ideas. And then creativity is there for those who are like the image-making generative AIs, and then accessibility tools. I know that we have an EL teacher that has used this to not only translate text, but to also make it grade level appropriate reading. So it's another tool there that is very helpful. I know I went on a lot about that, but any questions about generative AI?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you. I think this is absolutely critical, especially right now, that we stay up to date and current and aware of what's going on, but not to move too fast. And I feel like you caught a good balance here, and I'm really excited to see how it moves forward.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about here, and Denny and Jason are here to assist with this because they have the knowledge that I don't, because I'm just here for the technical knowledge, of the live streaming contract with Huddle. So here's the current situation. We currently use YouTube and Huddle and their cameras that we have to stream on YouTube. They're currently at the high school main gym and Catan Stadium. They're unmanned AI cameras. So if you look at the picture here, this one camera has 4 mini lenses or cameras in them, and the other one has 2. So as the motion moves side to side, the program actually picks what camera to focus to and move to. So it's kind of cool that way. It's managed by Denny and Jason and supported by us basically when they don't turn on. Some current issues with this is our contract, Denny and Jason, I'll say our contract, their contract is up in July. It was a 3-year contract. And so we need to make a decision on the new one. They've had some advances. And one of the advances is they're no longer going to be allowing the YouTube plugin. So we have to make some decision about how we're going to stream some things. Right now, with only having 2 cameras, it does limit some of the sports that we have available to be streamed. And then Huddle doesn't give too great of support when you're doing just the free kind of things like we're doing. But they've been supportive in other areas. Sorry. So some more information. Some of this is just reminders from our last meeting. I believe it was September or October. Huddle required Blue Frame, and they made their own streaming service now called Huddle TV. Can be free, or mostly it's used as a paywall for many districts. So the primary focus of this would be for sharing our district's athletic competitions. But something they brought to us when we were meeting with them was even opening up to some possible youth or community events as well that are being held in those areas. This would now be more of a joint venture between athletic and technology, and not just be us there to support them. But the streams can be automated or manned for added features. And one of those added features is a potential revenue stream for athletics in the district, like sponsorship logos, ads, things like that. Right now, this is kind of like all the different pictures we could have talking to our Ho rep that they gave us. So there's basically 5 different scenarios that we could choose from. To kind of show you what we're at right now is the first column, option A, to just renew what we currently have. So there's 2 cameras, like we said, a high school main gym, high school Catan Stadium. The green sports are all the varsity sports or high school sports that are currently broadcasted or streamed through those cameras. It is going to go up in cost next year. It was previously $13,000, but now it's going up to $20,000. So there is automatically a $7,000 increase no matter what we do. Option B, which is the other 4, are all paywall options. So the idea is that option A is we just renew what we did and we keep everything free and we just use Huddle TV instead of YouTube. Option B is a paywall where we start earning some revenue for the district to help supplement this purchasing and also some special projects that both Denny's department and my department would like to do. So we could do paywall option B, which is instead of it just keeps everything the same for $20,000, but adding the paywall option to it. So there'd be nothing beyond the new $7,000 account for that one contract. Now, while there's other options here, from our discussion and from talking to our rep, John, right? Is that our rep? Option B, expansion 2, is kind of like what we said on would be the best package for us maybe next year going into this paywall option. Excuse me. It would be going into 8 cameras, up from 2. So those new cameras would be adding an outdoor camera and an indoor camera, 2 flex cameras and 2 diamond cameras. So with all that being said, we're going to add a camera to the middle school main gym, add a camera to the middle school football field. The flex cameras are soccer cameras, so we buy 2 soccer cameras so we can record both soccer events going on at the same time over at Fultz, so JV and varsity can be streamed at the same time on those fields. And the diamond cameras are the baseball and softball cameras. Those are not available as of yet, but they were going to be available this summer. So to get them on a contract now would be more beneficial to us than if we waited to be later on. These cover all the sports, starting all the way from the left where we have football, volleyball, and green sports, to the next column, which is expansion 1, adding soccer, and then the yellow sports are all the middle school sports, green is high school. So you can see here, we would serve possibly 18 different sports teams by going with expansion 2. So we would basically double the number of teams that we could show events for by doing that. But there are some additional costs that we have to come just to get this started. The first one is we need workers. To add some of this additional revenue for the ads and things like that, you need to have someone working the laptop that's associated with the camera. So what we did was we took the annual amount of time someone works for a game, like a scorekeeper or something like that, and we multiplied it by, in this case, 150 events, and that's what we got, about $13,500 is how much it would cost if we did that all the way through all of those events. And we would have to purchase a couple laptops for this. They are proprietary to Mac, so we currently don't have any of those because we're not truly a big Mac-friendly school, but we would have to purchase those for this to happen. So when we're all said and done, it is a little bit more costly. Like for this one, it would be, if we did what we are recommending, which is option B, expansion 2, it would be $54,500, give or take, for the first year. For the cuddle contract, the workers, and the initial tech buy-in. I know I talked a lot. There's a lot of information there. Do you have any questions? Okay.
Dave, if I could just ask, Denny and Jason, if you can come up and kind of share your insights about, we're talking about live streaming, like, what are the benefits of this, like, from an athlete perspective or from a coach perspective, or, you know, we're talking about a lot about viewership, right? So just your aspect of the benefits of, so the board knows.
So, you know, there's a lot to consider. So first of all, our conference mandates huddle for certain sports because that's how we exchange film. So we are held in our conference bylaws, football, basketball, boys and girls, they have to have football because that's how we exchange conference game film. That's used for scouting. Part of this service allows our coaches to do what they call huddle assist. So our coaches can send a game film to huddle, and huddle can actually break it down for them based off of things that they put in. So if they want turnovers, if they want rebounds, if they want points, you know, whatever the case may be, huddle does that for them. And with this package, it would be a matter of 6-hour turnaround. So on a Friday night, if our football team goes and puts it in, it's going to come back to them 6 hours later with the breakdown for that game. As far as viewership goes, we have a lot of viewers from grandparents, aunts, uncles, relatives that are not in the Strongsville community. So a lot of our viewers that watch our live stream now that's free are those relatives that cannot make it to a game or they are out of state. The benefit for student athletes is that Huddle creates highlight videos for them. They will actually take game film and game clips from an athlete that is playing, and they will generate a highlight video for them that they can send out to college scouts. So as far as the viewership for our athletes as well as for our families, it's a huge piece because it saves our coaches time from making highlight videos for the individual players, and it, you know, it's just generated from the Huddle video clips. For instance, if I went back to our Brunswick boys basketball game this past year, what we do currently with YouTube is it allows viewers to go back and watch the game live. So even if they aren't at the game, they can go on at any time to YouTube and view those games live. So I went back and watched our Brunswick boys basketball game, and there was over 10,000 viewers or views that we had from that game. So I think our viewership from a community perspective, but not only that, when we play a lot of visiting teams, especially during the week, the Menors, the Cleveland Heights, the Shaker Heights, a lot of their community members can't come, so they will view it live stream. And same with our parents. If we play a Menor on a Tuesday night in volleyball, a lot of our parents are just going to log into the live stream and watch that. You know, especially with lower levels, freshman JV, when those games are starting at 5 o'clock, it is very difficult for some of our parents to get to those games. So a live stream option like this would allow them to view those games, you know, when they can't make it. From a middle school perspective, we get asked all the time, hey, how come there is no cameras live streaming, you know, middle school? And for the same situations, we have parents who work, and if we have middle school contests starting at 4:30, it is very difficult for them to get there to view those games. We've tried, and we have, you know, been working to try to move some of our middle school games to the high school to provide that live stream opportunity for them when we can. But when we throw in practice schedules and the number of teams that need to use the high school turf or our high school gym, it's nearly impossible to accommodate the middle school when those other teams still need the practice facility.
Are you able to not do it at all, or are you able to do it once or twice
For the middle school,
for the middle school?
so we did our Mustang Bowl for basketball this year in the high school gym. That was a Saturday. Our girls were playing away, so we were able to do it, and same with our boys. As far as football, we are actually changing our football schedule this year. So our JV and our freshmen are both going to play on Saturdays. So that's going to allow for a lot more, you know, those parents to get there maybe on Saturdays that maybe can't get there on Thursdays for our freshman game. With that, that might allow our middle schools the opportunity to come up to the high school, you know, for those opportunities, but that's just going to depend on our high school practice schedule.
Do you have the stats for the time you did it?
I don't.
Can you
So,
follow
not
up
off the
with
top
us?
of my- Yeah. Mhm.
Thanks.
Yep.
Denny, you said that with the new package, the turnaround time would be like 6 hours for football. What is it under the free package?
Right now, it is 12 hours. So it's not much different. I mean, it's 12 hours, versus 6, but on a Friday night, if you get back at 11 o'clock, and then by the time that you get it, you're not getting that till noon the next day. Most football programs are in at 8 a.m. the next morning watching film or trying to get film.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Do they charge you extra then for that turnaround time? Or is this all?
No,
It's all. in the
it's part of the package. If you want it to be faster, there is an additional charge right now, which our football program, I believe, paid that out of their booster account to get that faster. Yep, the fast turnout. And, I mean, as Dave and I checked, there are some other camera options that we explored, like Pixelot, which is the NFHS camera. After a game is live streamed, we don't own those rights. So the video is owned by Pixelot. So that was a red flag for us as to why we feel like this is the best model for us, because we would own these videos essentially. And not only that, parents and community members can go on after the fact and kind of like an on-demand model. They can watch the game from on demand
So.
through
maybe-
this Huddle TV.
Right, okay, so, like, in the conference, everybody has to be part of Huddle, right? Is that what you're saying?
Correct, but not every school has to provide Huddle TV. So like Menor uses NFHS, which is a Pixelot camera,
Oh, okay.
which is another form of Huddle TV, where we think the big red flag is that we don't own those videos.
Okay. But if my child was playing at Menor and I couldn't get there, is that live streamed from there then, if they were playing like Strongsville, or no, is it just Strongsville?
No, it's live stream, but it's through a different platform.
Okay,
This is
So-
for all home events.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Richard, for your comments earlier, the middle school Mustang Boys Bowl had 126 views on a Saturday morning, unique viewers. It had over 200 views, but 126 unique, and the girls had 93 unique viewers, but over 150 viewers throughout the time.
One other thing I'll add to this is we're always trying to enhance the experience for the students. And of course, adding additional cameras to cover additional games and events allows more families to watch if they can't make it. But I think having the paywall also encourages people to actually come to the games. I've talked to people who have watched the free live streaming and they're like, well, I considered coming to the game, but it's free to watch online, so I'm going to just watch it online. So in terms of the student experience, this could potentially increase the amount of people that come to a game and increase that experience for the kids, for the atmosphere and the excitement behind the event.
If we didn't live stream it at all?
Well, yeah, that would too.
Well, I would make a secondary argument to what you're saying in that I think offering more games and availability for parents and relatives all over the country does in fact enhance the student experience, because they can get that feedback from those people that kind of motivate them and boost them along in their journeys. So I think that argument just extends further and negates yours.
I wasn't
like when you
arguing,
said
I was
that.
just saying that
Yeah,
if
and
we
the other
didn't live
thing-
stream at all,
And going back to
we'd
what,
really be motivated to go to the
Actually,
game.
is really being a grandparent and having like kids, like sometimes like this one's here and this one's there, and it would be wonderful if I could just click on a thing and say, okay, I saw you and I went to this game. And it's hard when you have like multiple people. Families have multiple kids. They can't be at every single thing. So
Divide and conquer.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's
and
great.
I mean, to your point, we run in this spring where we might have baseball, softball, as well as lacrosse all going on at the same time. And there's times where we have our high school lacrosse teams down at the middle school. And if they have a relative or a sibling that's playing baseball or softball, they're now split into two separate locations, and it's really tough for them, you know.
So they
to
can
get-
keep track of it while they're
Correct.
watching?
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing.
So one of the things I know Dave has prepared and Denny and Jason have is, why don't you go through kind of some of the next slides, which break down costs and ad revenue and.
So, with the paywall, with Huddle, it is a 70-30 split. They get 30% of the gross revenue, and then from the 70% that's left over, about 4% of that is credit card processing fees, and then we get that 66%. So for every $1 that is spent on the paywall, we would get 66 cents from that. So using some of the literature that John gave us with Huddle, and through our discussions, an example of a single event, let's say the Brunswick game, when we sold out of tickets and we had to turn people away, was $12.50 per ticket. So if a person bought an online viewing for that day of event, we would get $8.25 from that viewership. Or an annual pass, which some of the literature they provided shows about $175 for an annual pass. So you get free reign to all the streams all year long. We would get $115.50 per that $175. So there's just options of what other districts have done.
And I will add too, we can set that fee however we want. So if we want to only charge $5, we can charge $5. If we want to charge 15 to force people to come live, we can do that too. So that's up to us, as a district to set those fees.
So to kind of show how this would kind of break down, we're just going to focus right now on option B, expansion to the second from the right, because that's what we're kind of suggesting. It'd be about $54,500, $54,500 for the whole commitment for the year. It'd be $20,000 from the athletic department, which would be what they budgeted for the basic service. And then above the basic service would all come from my department. Excuse me. At $34,500. So the idea is that my department would make that money back throughout the year, and actually we would all make our money back throughout the year and then hopefully get some money towards the following year. But an example of this would be if we said we had 2,000 people buy a single event ticket, and then 250 annual passes. From our revenue take, we would get $46,375 from those tickets being made. So if you look at it, it pays for the original contract itself, but it doesn't quite get all the funds that we need to kind of break even. So this is where Huddle's been really nice with their districts, and they allow additional revenue opportunities, and they take none of the cut. One of those optional revenue streams is a rotating sponsorship. So like when you see, in this case, in the top corner, we did a mock-up here of Canes. You can have that be a rotating sponsorship. So the example here would be about every 6 seconds, a new logo would show up. If we did 60 sponsorships, that would be a 6-minute cycle. So for an hour of viewership, you would see the same ad 10 times. What would think, going off the literature that once again Huddle's provided, they've kind of separated them into 3 seasons, fall, winter, spring, or the whole year. So an example would be like for a whole year sponsorship. So your logo is going to be on every single live stream we have. For the whole year, $1,500 for a 6-second spot in a 6-minute rotation. Or you can do a seasonal spot. Let's say your kid's playing, lacrosse, and you really want your business to be there to show they're supporting your kids. It'd be $750 for that one season. But the idea is there's 60 spots. Once they're sold, they're sold. If we look at this where we sold 60 annual sponsorships, that's $90,000 in revenue for us that Huddle doesn't touch. And what we thought about doing is, it's a lot of work for us to sell them, and we really don't have time in our day to do that. But if we work with other booster groups or even clubs to sell them, like thinking about our middle school Dungeons and Dragons, What if they talk to Ground Zero Comics down the road here and they put a $750 in for one season? Well, we'll split it 50-50. They get $375 for their club, and we take the $375 into our kitty to help us recoup some of our costs. So a lot of groups or activities can find a sponsorship, and we would split that cost or whatever we bring in with them. So basically, we would get $45,000 for them selling ads to help, kind of make up the difference. So if you think of the $46,000 from the previous slide and the $45,000 from this, that's $90,000 that we've made in 1 year of streaming to recoup what we spent. And that's kind of where this next slide goes into, where the idea is that, the athletic department kind of has this built into theirs. We don't have it built into ours, but the idea is we would front the money for the difference, and then as the money comes in quarterly, we would kind of repay the tech department for what we spent. Then once the tech department gets its money spent or repaid back, anything additional would be split 3 ways. 1/3 would go to the athletic department for special projects, like new equipment or uniforms or things like that. 1/3 would go to the tech department for special projects, and then 1/3 would stay in the kitty towards the next year's contract. So if we took that and split it 3 ways, each of our departments would almost have $10,000 extra dollars for special projects, and still have $10,000 to pay towards the next year contract. So if you look at what the numbers are, within 4 to 5 years, it could be paying for itself, and we wouldn't have to worry about fronting the money anymore. It could be something that really helps rejuvenate a revenue stream for us. So as I finished my long presentation, I'm sorry. What we kind of needed this meeting from you guys is in some kind of capacity, what direction would you like us to explore a little bit more in detail, and we come back to get approval for our contract, because everything is above $25,000, so we will have to get approval from you. And then, I guess that's the first thing. And then the next thing is, when we come back for approval, we will eventually have to set pricing structures for the paywall if we go that way. And then also, George will have to redesignate one of the accounts that I have for Makerspace to be a Rotary account for what we would have to do with this.
How long, if we sign a contract, how long? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years?
From our talk with them, they haven't really seen any big increases in the last couple of years. We could do a 1-year contract to see how it works, and if we like it, then go to a 3-year contract.
Okay.
But if we sign a 3-year contract, we can't go down, but we could go up.
We could go up. Okay.
So if we wanted to say, hey, look, we want option B, and it really works out, we want to go to option B2, and we want to go to B3 and add more cameras, no problem, because you're going to make $6,000 more off of us. But if we sign for expansion 2, which is 36, and we're like, well, that didn't work out, they're not going to let us drop down and save money because the contract was already signed for the more amount.
So the length of contract is up to us?
Correct.
Yeah.
But I think they only do 1 and 3-year contracts.
They only do
though.
1 and 3, they don't
1 and
ever
3.
go above.
Dave,
yeah.
those cameras, those are Huddle's and not ours. So if we were to go down, then we would send back the cameras.
I would believe so. They really didn't state that. It's just that they become, in the contract, each year you basically pay for it to be active. If you don't pay for it, then it's just a paperweight. So they didn't talk about if we had to turn it back in or not, but it just wouldn't work.
They wouldn't charge us for that camera by
Correct.
having-
They would not charge us for the camera.
Do we know if any of our neighboring districts are doing this successfully?
So they gave us a list of schools. I don't know off the top of my head if there's anyone neighboring, but there are some in Northeast Ohio that are following this. The model that they gave us was Centerville, who has made about $95,000 in their first year off of the revenue with ads, and things like that. Following up on what Dave said earlier, one of the bigger things that we talked about is we can turn these cameras on 30 minutes before a contest, and we can do pregame ads. So we can run ads, as they're scrolling. We can do senior night videos, we can do senior banners, we can highlight seniors on that, you know, prior to the game starting, which is gonna help with, of course, all of those relatives that can't be there. They can see, you know, things that we wanna do, you know, from that live stream option. But I can get you some districts around here that are currently using it if you would like. Okay?
Please.
Yeah, they can't provide hard data because it is proprietary, but like, they gave us an approximation of what Centerville did this year. They just can't give us hard data from those
But
schools.
Centerville can.
Yeah.
It's
Centerville
public
can,
record.
Possibly.
So, okay.
With the portable cameras that are an option, you know, 1 and above, earlier you mentioned something about community use or whatever. Are those portable in that, like, I could take it to the town square and set it up? Or are they portable only on district property? Like, how does that work?
So like the flex cameras, which are the soccer ones,
Yeah.
they're programmed just for soccer fields.
Okay.
So you could take it to any soccer field as long as you have the correct distance from the sideline. Like you have to be pretty measured for the distance and the height of the camera to make the AI work appropriately. But if you follow those kind of guidelines, it could be moved from location to location. But what I was thinking more about, and what we've talked about is like youth travel basketball. Say they're playing in the high school gym all day on a Saturday. We could throw it up on the paywall for like $5 all day, and even though their kid's only going to be playing for maybe a half hour, 45 minutes, they could go online and see that. You could do other community events kind of like that, or using those facilities that the camera's already at. You know, that's the kind of thing that we were thinking about with like the youth facility, like when they do like maybe the flag football at the stadium in the spring and things like that with the youth. You could throw it on there and they kind of can see what's going on. But those are kind of like the youth things that we were thinking about.
But
And
if
I
we
think
take
going
them
back
out-
to what Mrs. Cobain said, with our flex cameras, let's say for soccer, if we have a OHSAA district game that's at, you know, Nordonia, we can set those cameras up and we would get the revenue from the live streaming instead of paying it to someone else. Or if we have a big game down at Medina, we can take that camera, set it up, and we can get the ticket revenue as long as the other district is okay with us doing that. So that's a possibility for us to do that too.
Which other districts would be okay with that?
Well, so like Medina doesn't offer live stream at their soccer stadium, I don't believe, because they don't have any cameras there. A lot of the soccer facilities don't have cameras. So unless they're filming it just for their game film, they don't have that live stream capability. With something like this, we could provide it and say, hey, if you're willing, we will set this up for live stream, not only for our fans, but for your fans.
And what some of the schools, they talked about when they do that conference sharing type thing, is they just split the revenues from that game.
Correct.
Because the dashboard will tell you how many people bought and all that. So you can say, hey, you don't have a camera, we have a camera, let us come bring it, set it up, whatever, we'll do a revenue split of that game if you want it. So they talked about some of the smaller schools, bigger schools playing smaller schools down in southern Ohio. They said that's some things that they do sometimes.
Okay.
If we use this paywall thing and we get to set the price, right?
Mhm.
Is it possible to, like, let's say we want to, like, trial, can we set, like, a big game to 0 and open it up for people to, like, see if they like it? Or is that not an option? Like, does it have to cost something every time?
We didn't discuss that part.
Yeah.
There is an option for like special, say you have like a Hall of Fame alumni being inducted or something, and you want their family to see that game or something, you can provide special codes for like certain events or an annual pass that could be like free of charge, like built into like maybe an athletic booster package. You can provide a code, and that code is associated with some type of internal fee or something like that, but we never discussed if it could be, if it's a $0 paywall, if that's a possibility.
Can we
And-
do
and
can
each
we do
code-
surge pricing?
Yeah, we could, they talked about
could.
Centerville playing their big rival, and they spiked it up to $30 a game, and people still paid for it.
So this sounds like it's going to be a lot more man hours. Do we have the people and staff to do that?
So, to answer that, it is twofold. It doesn't have to cost man hours. It's just if you want someone to be there to change the graphics and do the things in-game or per quarter, say if we sell sponsorship ads that are quarterly sponsorship ads, hey, you know, this sponsor is going to be our first quarter sponsor. This sponsor is going to be second quarter. If we want that, then we need someone to man that. If we just want to leave it up for a whole game, then we can set the parameters behind the scenes and let it play from this time to this time. And in timeouts, you know, like we can preset that stuff. Yes, it's man hours of setting that all up, but as far as someone actually being there, you know, for the game, we don't have to have that. It's a nice feature. So I guess it's twofold, you know, as to what we can do. A thought that we had was to work with Brian Bent's sports management class. They go to a lot of games already, and they take pictures, they film things. Is this something that they want to, you know, kind of take on as part of their class to do for us? So, I mean, those are conversations that we still would have to have.
And also, we did build in money for workers at the $15 a rate. That's still above minimum wage. And we have community members or even possibly students that would go to the game and visit. And why not them do something while they're there and make themselves a little bit of money? And the program is pretty intuitive from what it was explained to us and showed. So we have people that volunteer to run the scoreboard at the high school gym, and that's a pretty complicated system. This is not as complicated as that is from the demos that I've seen from our conversations.
And to counteract that, like, we are working strategically with scheduling. So, you know, I talked about the freshman football and JV football now going to Saturday only. That's saving in game workers from during the week. We are working with basketball doubleheaders, boys and girls on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's going to save on Wednesdays and Saturdays game workers. So there's costs that we can recuperate from our schedule that we're going to, you know, to hopefully plan out that is going to save on the game worker costs if we choose to have a game worker manage the system.
Any other questions? Has name, image, and likeness come up yet?
It has, and it was voted down last year by the OHSAA.
Because again, we're talking about revenue, we're talking about profit, we're talking about the product is the students. So just like we need to think about generative AI, I wouldn't be surprised if we have to start thinking about name, image, and likeness sooner than later.
Yeah, and it was a topic that came up. It was voted on last year, and it failed. I don't know by how many votes.
Because the athletes might have a different opinion than the people
Correct.
at the vote.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
but that's for the future. I think, does anybody else have any specific questions? I think for myself, I just need to think through, is it a revenue opportunity or is it opportunity to provide additional service and we want to recoup our costs? And that goes towards the idea that, you know, the paywall structure and the pricing that we'll have to think through. So we'll think through it and then we'll give you direction.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mickel, I would ask, though, Dave and the team need direction. They've got to move on, right?
Next meeting.
I'm saying, the question I have is the next meeting for you guys to think about it more and give direction? Or do you want Dave to put something on the agenda that you would talk about, discuss, and either approve or modify? Which aspect would you want?
Do we have the time to give direction at the next meeting so that the second meeting after that, we would vote?
So the May meeting, it would be the May our general meeting. That would be early enough because our contract technically isn't up till July. So just the longer we wait, the possibility of delaying cameras, but that really wouldn't be that big of a hindrance from, as of right now. As long as we could move immediately after that second May meeting, we should be able to confirm all the cameras for spring or fall sports.
All right, thank you, good. Thank you, Mr. Mickel.
And that actually concludes my conversation.
Thanks, Dave. Great update. Appreciate it.
I appreciate your
Thank you.
quick and efficient report.
See you next year.
Next, I'll turn it over to Jenny with the Human Resource Report.
So I just have a few items for your consideration. We have the resignation of a certificated staff. We have retirement of an administrative staff member. Appointments for certificated staff.
And then finally, I just have one correction to the March 28th agenda. You approved a teacher at MA5, and what we typically need to do is approve them at BA0 first. Upon, when we get their transcripts and verification of employment, that's when we put them back on the agenda for that amount. So it was just an error, so we wanted to correct it to BA0 until we get that verification. And that concludes my report.
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
And I am furiously trying to catch up. We'll just attempt to read it from the screen.
Adoption of the consent.
Next on our agenda is our consent calendar, adoption of the consent calendar. At this point,
Sorry, I was
this
trying to make it
point
bigger for you.
was,
There you go. Yeah, it's as big as I can get it.
hey, my laptop caught up. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type action consent, which is the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless requested otherwise. Do I have any otherwise? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Cobain. Any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes,
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
and the motion carries. Board of Education Other, do we have any Board of Education Others? I will share with the community that I did attend the board meeting of the Strongsville GOP yesterday. I extended an invitation for them to be part of a finance committee of the whole. There was some healthy discussion, and they will follow up with us and let us know whether they want to attend. Irregardless, as a board, we will be doing the 5-year forecast at our,
May 9th meeting?
potentially our May 9th meeting.
Whenever that Thursday is. May 9th.
May 9th.
At our May 9th meeting. That was one of the dates that I suggested might be healthy for the community to discuss our finances, because obviously our finances affect the decision we as a board will have to make on levy renewal and levy decisions, period. So I hope that they accept our offer. I think the discussion will be healthy. I think the discussion hopefully will be useful for the community, and then we can go forward and continue to make decisions. But I did want to share that with the board and the administration, and we'll wait to see how that is received. That's my Board of Education Other. Last chance. Hearing none, we do have reason for executive session on the topics of
To consider the employment of a public employee.
do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Cobain. Any discussion? George, please take the roll.
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Ms. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes?
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
The motion carries. We will enter into executive session at 8:55 PM. We have no expectation of further business. Thank you for your attention, and have a good evening.